baby, time for the sermon.
I think she was sleeping.
Oh, she wasn't even listening to anything. What?
I wasn't plugged in. What?
I thought you were listening to music.
Oh, yes, I just
I
plugged
thought
in.
that was like 2019 we were listening to music. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I have a confession this morning.
you were sleeping.
I'm a sinner.
No.
Stevie, shut up.
And the only way I can seem to not sin is to completely close myself off from the world. Cover my eyes, listen to worship music very loud, and just not speak. And I don't understand why the Israelites wanted rules, but they asked for them. So God gave them. And so when I became a born again Christian, the first thing I did was go to the 10 Commandments. I didn't go to Jesus. And so it was really hard for me. I got really discouraged. So there was a time where I left the church because I just couldn't stop sinning. I didn't understand what was really happening. So as I progressed in my faith and started looking back in history, I saw that I was not the only one that did this. Martin Luther, who started the Reformation, and he, that's where the word Protestant comes from, he protested. But before that happened in his life, that was in the 1500s, he became a monk. And he would self-harm because he couldn't get himself to stop sinning. And he was so depressed during this time. And for Martin Luther, it was really hard because he didn't have the Bible. In those days, the priests read it. So there was no escape for him. He could never please God. And John Wesley was the same. For some reason, there was a point where John Wesley just dedicated himself to the Bible and to God, but never got past the 10 Commandments. Like, he couldn't pass his sins. So his whole day consists of praying and reading the Bible. And much like you saw, if we stay in a state where we have to cover our ears, our mouth, and our eyes, we miss what's really going on. Like, I miss that worship and the questions, and these are things that you need to know to grow together. So I just want to take a moment to really look at the 10 Commandments. And just to cross off to see, if we broke those commandments or not. Or let's just see what it says here in Exodus. It says, "You shall have no other gods before me." That one's like, oh, no kidding. That one we got. But I always like to put commandment number 2 with that. And it says, "You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven, above, or on the earth, beneath, in the waters below." So that's when we figure out, oh, we can cross that because we definitely sin there. Because for myself, with my smoking, it became to a point where I had to smoke first before prayer. Some people, it's food.
Chicken wings.
Any kind of addiction, whatever takes you away from God becomes your idol. And we do it with our children, we do it with our grandkids. So, boom, those two we can cross off, sin there. And like what Martin Luther and John Wesley, it was the Ten Commandments. It was their worst enemy. Because they just concentrated so much on that they couldn't concentrate on God. So then, let's go to the next one.
You just wanted to.
You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. So, every morning, I guess most of us will sit in bed and we'll pray and God, please give me the strength to get through today and I hope I don't sin. 2 seconds later, you get out of bed and you hit your toe off that end table and you're like, oh my God. Boom. Sinned. Then you gotta sit back on your bed, be like, Lord, I'm sorry I used your name in vain and I have sinned today. So that one is pretty easy, okay? It happens quite often at my house.
And you should check your toe. Make sure it's not broken.
No.
Okay. The next one. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Now that one it still confuses me till today. I don't understand. Because everybody has different rules and I get so overwhelmed with it that I called it off. So I'm sinning because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing on that day.
Nothing.
And everybody's like, nothing. But what's that mean, nothing, when you're a mother of 10 kids? Like, I have to prepare the month before to have one happen. You know, so, no. Cross that one
What if you don't have kids?
off. So, number 5, honor your mother and your father and your mother.
Take that off.
You know, I feel like I only learned that one recently because for many years my one prayer was that God leave my mother on this earth. Because I didn't know if I could do life without her. Even if I had kids and a husband, it's not the same as with your mom. So the last couple of months of her life, she kept telling me, you know, I miss my dad. I miss my dad. So I stopped praying. And I told the Lord, you know, I think she's ready to go because she just missed her dad so much. And then a few months after, yes, she passed away. So I think that yes, parents really do make mistakes. And we don't always understand the choices that they're going to make in life. But there's a time when we have to give our parents to Jesus like we give our children to Jesus. It's strange, it's weird to say that, but I remember the night that I went in, and my brother was just losing it when she passed, and so was my sister, and I didn't. And I was just rejoicing in that room with her because I wanted to make sure that her journey to Jesus was awesome. Because I just knew where she was going. It was so peaceful. And she looked so amazing. Like she always looked sick. But then when I went in there, because I've never seen anybody that's passed, and she just looked really rested. It was the most weird experience. But at some points, I did dishonor my mother. It was going to happen, you know? So that one, I'm crossing off. And the next one. You shall not murder.
Go ahead and get that.
You know what? For a long time, I judged people. Before really knowing life, before I had kids, you know. And I only started to realize that I had a friend, her name was Valerie, and she would watch the news in the morning and then come see me. And we'd talk about it, and we were really good friends. But the night before, I already had heard the news, and it was about a mother and her 3 children, and she had it wasn't far from here, and she had murdered her 3 children. And Valerie came over and she's like, well, what kind of mother can do that? And I didn't speak right away. And I told her, I said, Valerie, I said, do you think? That morning she woke up and said, well, look, I do the laundry. At lunchtime I gotta feed the kids. At supper time, I'm gonna drown the kids. It didn't make sense to me. Like, I don't think all the time it's because you're evil. I think sometimes we're put in situations, and like I told her, that could be me and you. So don't judge. We don't know how we're going to wake up tomorrow. I don't know why she did it. But for a mother to do that, she had to, because she sat with them after and she cried, and something pushed her that way. And I'm not saying that it was right, because I know that there is evil people in the world, and they just randomly do things, and I don't know why. But I would never say I would never do that, because I would never want God to test me on that one. So no, I didn't commit that sin, but I feel bad for the people that did. I have compassion for people. I'm not going to cross that one off just yet, but it could happen, and I'm not ever going to say that it wouldn't, okay? The next one is, you shall not commit adultery. That's why you have the glasses with the tape. God made beautiful people. Okay, so like, when I first became a Christian, I just walked like this. Because I knew if somebody was hot, I was going to look. Like, he should have just made everybody really ugly. And this would have been so easy. Be like, no, it's okay. When we would get new neighbors up the hill, I'd be like, please let them be ugly. Already I judged, so already I sinned. Okay? So that one, it's hard because God calls us to love everybody. And sometimes, well, as a woman, sometimes you can see that love, but then it goes further than that love, and then you're like, but I don't see it that way. But it looks that way, so it's like, it's really messed up, So that one's a tester. Even, and I'm not saying, because like Jesus said, like even if you thought about it in your mind, even if you look, pluck out your eye. Okay. So yeah, it's pretty massive. So like, that one's scary. Just keep your glasses on, people. So that one I can cross off, because yes, in the past I've looked at people, and still today, if somebody's really hot, I look. I'm sorry. So yeah, and that's just honest.
Me too.
You shall not steal. This one, I never really was into the whole stealing thing. I'm a really trustworthy person. And I don't see the reason why people would steal. But I was at Super C a couple of years ago. It was Christmas time, and I saw this man running out of the store with a package of hamburger meat. Okay, and all these people are chasing him for this pack of hamburger meat. And only in that moment that I realized that he's probably a dad. Because if you're willing to go to prison for a package of hamburger meat, it's because you have no money and you got to feed those kids. So that's hard. Because with the amount of kids I have, if I was put in that situation, I'd be probably that man running with that hamburger meat. And it's just the way the economy is today, and the way, if everyone followed Christ like he wanted, people wouldn't have to be running out of the supermarket with meat, because they would be at the neighbor's house eating. So it's a hard society we live in today. So, I'm going to cross that one off. You shall not give false witness against your neighbor. That one was really hard for me. Really hard for me. Just because gossip was my thing. We grew up in a very small place in Sydney, Nova Scotia, and that's what we did for fun. Sat around, played cards, and you gossiped about all the neighbors. And then when they would come over, you'd be like, come in. Okay. You know, so it was bad though. Like now that I think about it, because everybody has struggles. And until you walk in their shoes, you can't just sum it up, well, why did they do that? We don't sit there and think, well, something must have happened. But at that point, we didn't do that. Well, I do that now. And I really try to understand their point of view. But that one again, we can cross it off. The last one, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his manservant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. That one, that's hard today in today's society also. Because when we see people with things, we tend to want them too. And I think it makes a wedge between people in the neighborhood and in the community. I think it causes anger. You know, and not just anger, because if you're also showing jealousy to your neighbor, well, you know, I really love your car, you know, I want it, then it makes the neighbor boastful. So then you're both sinning, and you're both helping each other along. So nobody's winning, really, when it comes to the full picture. So, again, yes, I'm crossing that one off. I've done that. Like I said, there's no way that we can do it. There's absolutely no way. And that's why it's so important to know Jesus. Because Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. You always have to have your eyes on Jesus. Because even when you fall and you keep your eyes straight ahead at Him, not that the law will disappear, but He will make it easier to get through it. He will block it. But it's to have that faith, to have that trust in Jesus. And when Martin Luther, his depression got to the worst, he went to the council and said, listen, I'd just rather die. And the council said, well, we have a new job for you. Remember, Martin Luther has never read the Bible. So when he left there and he read the Bible, he found grace. And he just couldn't believe what he was missing in that Bible, what people were missing. And so he was the first person to translate it into German. Because for all those years, he wasted all that time. When Jesus said, no, I've got you. And he made the 95 Thesis at that time, and he posted on the church door, this is what you're doing wrong. You know, he had it really hard. Where John Wesley, he learned in a different way, because the Moravians were on the ship that he was on. And there was a night where there was drinking, and he got up, and the Moravians were cleaning, and And John Wesley said to them, well, you're not here for that. And they said, oh, we're not cleaning for you. We're cleaning for God. Because when we're serving people, we're serving God. He couldn't wrap his head around that. John Wesley's like, what? And then the big storm happened. And the Moravians, they were singing and dancing, and they were all expecting to die. And John Wesley went down in the bottom of the ship, and he's like, okay, and why are these people so happy? He's like, death is coming. And he went to them, and he's like, why are you so happy? He's like, well, we're going to meet our Savior if we die. Isn't that exciting to you? So the time he got back home through all of this, even through doing missionary work, he was still depressed. He no longer could understand what was happening. And so he went to a meeting where the Moravians were. And he said that's the first time he felt God. That he felt his sins leaving because he found grace. And that is the most amazing thing that could happen. Yeah, we're going to sin every day. We're the flesh. Like Jesus said when he went to go pray. Don't fall asleep. What they do, they all fall asleep. And he's like, no, I know you were going to. It's the flesh. You can't run away from it. But if you keep your eyes on me, I'm going to get you through it. Because I am the way. And just at the end, because I always like to have a conclusion, I read a few verses yesterday, and I thought it was the most amazing thing. And I'm going to read them. Okay, let me see which one. Okay, I'm going to start with Daniel. And it says here, multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. So then, if we go to 1 Thessalonians, it says, brothers, we do not want you to be ignorant about those who fall asleep, or to grieve like the rest of men who have no hope. We believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. Okay? So then, this is John 5. Do not be amazed at this, for a time is coming when all who are in their graves will hear his voice and come out. Those who have done good will rise to live, and those who have done evil will rise to be condemned. And what's so amazing about that, even on this journey of failing and falling, and even if they say, Jesus, I don't want you, I broke every commandment, I don't care. He says, that's okay, I'm still going to give you rest before your judgment. Who does that?
He does.
Only Jesus does. Like, you've sinned against me so many times, you've done everything wrong, I never rest, but I'm going to give you rest, even if you're condemned. Now, what other person can love you more than Jesus? I found that so amazing because I can't wait for that day of rest. Through this journey, it was hard. And Jesus understands it for everybody, even the ones that aren't going to make it. He can understand why. Because God came down here to walk with us, to see what was going on. And he saw our suffering, and he saw that there was no way. that even those commandments seem so easy to keep. They should be really easy. It's just morals. But for some reason, the flesh doesn't allow it. So don't get discouraged. You know, God will walk you through it. Just keep your eyes on Jesus, not on the ground, not in the sky. He is right here. He's in front of you, and just look straight ahead, even when it's really, really hard. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.